Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. Today is the second part of our four-part series on GASB 101 Compensated Absences Implementation. I'm your host, Danny Martinez, Advisory Partner at Cherry Bekaert. Our national team provides government accounting assistance in a variety of ways to help governments meet all of the requirements that they're facing in terms of accounting and financial reporting in the face of ongoing staffing and technical challenges. Lately, we've also been providing a lot of help just dealing with the uncertainty that's been coming out of Washington and navigating it all. As a reminder, we're going to have a guest on each part of this series as we work through the four phases of implementation. And I'm happy to welcome Tatiana Britton, Advisory Associate and GASB 101 Implementation Team Member to the show. Tatiana, will you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Danny. And hello, everyone. My name is Tatiana Britton. I am an advisory associate here at Cherry Bekaert. I've been with the firm for almost 2 years, and my biggest projects on the GPS team are assisting clients with the implementation and ongoing support of GASB 87, which focuses on leases, GASB 96, which focuses on subscription-based information technology arrangements, or SPIDAs for short. And now we are featuring GASB 101, which focuses on compensated absences as our newest service offering.
Perfect. Thank you, Tatiana. Tatiana did an incredible job with our clients with GASB 87 and 96, and she's been really helpful as we've been standing up, this four-phase approach for GASB 101, all the tools, all of the things. So she's going to help us walk through part 2 of our series. In the first part, we had Scott Anderson join me, where we talked about what GASB 101 is and digging into that first phase of implementation, which is understanding the standard. If you missed it, you'll find it in your feed or wherever you found this podcast. It's linked on YouTube, on our Cherry Bekaert website, Spotify, all the places you find your podcast. We'll also be sharing a link in the description to the show notes, so you should be able to find it in the notes to today's episode to be able to link back to the first phase if you missed it. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about completeness of your compensated absence liabilities and some tips for identification of all of those absences. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, Tatiana. So as you know, completeness is often the biggest audit risk when implementing a new standard, right? How do I cast that wide net and captured all of the potential types of, in this case, absences that exist within my government? And one of the reasons that GASB put out this pronouncement is because of the evolving types of compensated absences that governments are offering their employees, right? It's not the same environment that it was in 1992 when the previous compensated absence guidance came out. So you were on the team that was researching these compensated absences. How many did you find, and what are some of the more popular types of compensated absences that governments are offering?
So during our understanding the standard and research phase, we have found well over 30 different types of compensated absences a government entity could potentially offer its employees, as well as policies that handle different leave types for certain employees and departments. So for example, somebody in the finance department may have a certain policy that's different from somebody who works in the law enforcement or fire department. Of what we found, the most common being, or the most popular being parental leave, which is a gender neutral and inclusive term that offers the parents of a new child, and that's regardless of if the child arrived via birth or was through adoption. It allows the parents time to take off time to care for their child. Another popular type of used leave that I actually used myself last year is military leave, which allows employees who are members of the National Guard or the Reserves the ability to take time off for involuntary military service, such as inactive duty training or deployment. And a few other commons that's well known as your PTO/vacation, your sick time, short and long-term disability, as well as bereavement leave.
Yeah, I knew it was up there. I wasn't sure that it had even crossed the 30 threshold, but just a wide variety of types of leaves that are being offered, where it's not just vacation sick, right? There's just a lot more to it than that. So in that research, were there any fun or different type of compensated absences that we found?
Actually, yes. So we found one, it's called paternal leave, PAW, not to be confused with paternal, which allows new pet owners the ability to take time off to care for their new pet and get them settled into their new home. Or unfortunately, in the passing of a pet, they can use that time to grieve and plan out funeral arrangements. Also, another type of leave that we found was different was political leave, which allows employees to take time off to protest their political beliefs or even take the time to campaign for a seat as an elective official if they are running within their area.
Wow, that's wild. So as you guys can see, we left no stone unturned in terms of identifying and researching the types of leave that governments are offering. I would be shocked if either of those two that she mentioned were material, but hey, completeness. So we're going through and trying to find all of them. So, all right, thank you, Tatiana. All right, so back to business, back to the good old governmental accounting. Um, what are the ways that governments can work to identify the completeness of their population, right? So you're listing out all of these 30 plus types. How can they figure out which ones they have and start to work on identifying the completeness of their population that's attributable to their government?
In order for governments to be able to identify the completeness of their population, they should start with a thorough and complete detailed research of their policies, their payroll register, and their trial balance to verify all the potential types of compensated absences offered to the employees. Also, governments should be conducting these walkthroughs not only with their HR department, but also their payroll department as well.
Cool. So you touched on two different ways. Let's take a minute there to break down each of these in a little bit more detail for the audience. So first, you touched on policies, payroll register, and the trial balance being helpful. Can you explain why you looking at that information is helpful in terms of identifying potential compensated absences, and what should governments be looking for within each of those?
Yes, so the reason why looking at payroll policies, payroll registers, and trial balances are helpful not only to discover all possible compensated absences offered by the government, but to also understand how each type of compensated absence is treated in relation to the standard. With that being said, how the compensated absence is settled can impact if the leave should or shouldn't be recognized as a potential liability.
Perfect. And you mentioned the other area you mentioned. So you said, looking through the documents, figuring it out, seeing what happens at termination, seeing what types of things you offer. If you're going through the payroll register, seeing what type of leave is being utilized. When you're looking at the timesheets. So the other area you mentioned is talking to HR and meeting with payroll to assist in discovery. Why is that so important? What types of questions should our government accounting and finance professionals be asking to HR and payroll?
So with HR and payroll, they are essential team members when implementing GASB 101 because chances are they usually are the individuals who know the government's policy best from front to back. And usually they end up being the first ones who are in the loop for when policies are updated before it gets blasted to the rest of the government. In other words, their expertise and knowledge of scenarios pertaining to compensated absences and what happens if X, Y, and Z occurs is invaluable to this project. While assisting in discovery, governments should be asking themselves three important questions about the leave once it is discovered. The first one is, does the leave accumulate? The second question is the leave attributable? I'm sorry. Can we restart that part?
Yep.
I keep messing. Is it? It's
Att-
attributable.
Attributable.
Okay, because I keep trying to go for a short A with it. Attributable.
So you can say the first question you would ask. I would just start from there. They can cut it.
Okay. Would you guys let me know when you're ready? Okay. Okay. The first question they should ask themselves is one, does the leave accumulate? Two, is the leave attributable to services already rendered? And three, is the leave more likely than not to be used or otherwise paid in cash or settled through non-cash means other than conversion to defined benefit post-employment benefits? These questions can also be found in paragraph 3 of the statement.
Yeah, as I would be, thinking about talking to HR and payroll. sometimes they just know things, like you said, they're the most knowledgeable within the organization. They might know about um, what actually happens when someone terminates, or how do they use the leave for service credit, or convert it to another post-employment benefit plan. So there's just a lot of information that you're going to gather through those meetings and walkthroughs. And I think we learned this through our GASB 96 implementation, when we were getting with the IT professionals, right? We'd meet with the directors of IT at the governments, and just the insight that they had that, maybe was blind spots to the accounting and financial reporting, really helped us with figuring out how to record that subscription-based IT arrangement um, liability. So, same idea. We want to make sure in the essence of completeness that we're touching all of the people that would have the information that we need to identify all of the compensated absences the government has. All right, so one last thing, people know us by now, and they know that when we have something like this, we like to build all the things, right? We want to build the things to help with a seamless implementation. So as I mentioned at the top, you're on the project team that helped design or helping with implementation of GASB 101. And one of the things that you designed is the GASB 101 summary template. Can you share a little bit about what that summary template is and how it's helping our clients with implementation?
Absolutely. So, over the last few months, our team has spent countless hours not only learning the standard to become subject matter experts, but we also developed a GASB 101 summary template designed to help our clients with determining if there is a potential compensated absence liability that needs to be recognized. The nice thing with our template is that it's all drop-down responses, which includes over 20 to about almost close to 30 of our most popular leave types that we found that are offered by governments. Overall, our template is designed to make the implementation of GASB 101 as clean and efficient as possible, not only for our clients, but also for their auditors.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. This is a really, really good tool that you all and the team have developed, where you can kind of pull down. You have that huge list of all of the leave types. So you have a really good base and a really good starting point of the type of leave types that could pertain to your government. And as you're going through and answering these questions, I can see how it lines up with questions that are being asked within GASB 101 that kind of lead you down the path to, is this a potential liability or is this not a potential liability? Looking at, is the leave paid or not? You pointed out those three questions that Scott pointed out in part one in terms of accumulation, attributable, and more likely than not to be paid out. And as you go through and answer this, depending on the answer, it's going to say, yep, this could be an accrued liability. Let's dig into a little bit more, which we'll talk about in the next podcast on phases 3 and 4 and how you dig in. Or it says, nope, you're good here. You can you've documented it. You can drop it off here, show the auditor this thought process of how you determined that it's not going to be a liability under GASB 101. So again, really appreciate all the team's efforts in building this tool. And we're already seeing, governments being very appreciative and of the use of the tool. Perfect. So I think that we're going to stop there. We kind of touched on how that tool then leads us to the next phases, which is some of that evaluation, where you're looking at the policies, the procedures, what happens at termination, how do you settle it, um, how long are people staying at the organization, is the first leave that you pay the first that's used, or the last leave that you accrue the first leave that's paid. All of that fun stuff is coming as we go into phase 3 and phase 4 of implementation. But Tatiana, again, I appreciate your time. You shared some fantastic nuggets that government can utilize as they go through their completeness journey, and we appreciate your time. To our
Thank you.
listeners, of course, to our listeners, we hope that you continue along on this journey here in the next, month and a half or so as we work through those 4 phases of implementation. As I mentioned in our first podcast, we're signing up people now for our 4-phase GASB implementation solution. Here, getting into the early part of February, people are finally saying, look, I'm done with my W-2s, done with my 1099s. I guess I'm ready to go on this thing. And we are here and ready to go as well. If you want to hear about all of our 4 phases and how we can help, you can shoot me an email at danny.martinez@cbh.com, or you can shoot me a message on LinkedIn. You can also find Tatiana. Her name is Tatiana.Britton at cbh.com, or you can find her on LinkedIn as well. Thank you all so much for your time. We hope that you're appreciating and enjoying this 4-phase journey that we're going on, and we will see you next time.